Emma worked as a cook in a distant oil field, located in a remote corner of the country. She would go there for 15-day shifts, and during that time, all sorts of experiences would unfold. Her husband, David, trusted her completely and had no problem with her schedule. He understood that he couldn't financially support their entire family on his own. They had been married for 25 years, and their children were all grown, studying away at college. Over time, the spark between Emma and David had faded, leaving only faint embers, and neither of them seemed eager to reignite it. That was how the Thompson household functioned, until David discovered the extra special cooking his wife was doing at work. David spent his weekdays supervising a manufacturing crew in town. Whenever Emma was away for those 15-day shifts, he often spent time with his friends. Occasionally, people would ask, "Dude, aren't you worried about Emma being out there in a mostly male environment?" But David always dismissed their concerns. He was absolutely certain that Emma would never do anything dishonest. Meanwhile, Emma wasn't exactly spending her free time knitting scarves. She was an attractive woman, and the men working on that oil field rotation took notice. Big time. Honestly, it all started a decade earlier, during her very first shift there. One night, after curfew, a few other women from the kitchen knocked on Emma's door, inviting her to an initiation ritual. Half asleep, she followed them into a small supply closet. Olivia, the group's leader, explained the unspoken rules of life after hours on the rig. Emma's eyes widened as she listened. These rules were far more personal than professional. Before she knew it, they handed her a hefty shot of whiskey and told her to drink it in one go. Emma did as instructed, got pretty tipsy, and the night took on a life of its own. The next morning, she woke up beside a man from the rig, someone she found surprisingly attractive. She was mortified, but her new friend simply shrugged it off. "Look, you only live once, right?" From then on, Emma's future rotations became a series of late-night gatherings, drinking and secret encounters with some of the men stationed there. Sure, Emma still enjoyed coming home to David every couple weeks, but she wasn't exactly thrilled about it. He could sense how distant she had become. He even suggested counseling to fix their relationship, but she refused. David then tried showering her with flowers and thoughtful gifts, hoping to reignite a spark of passion. But nothing worked. Emma always avoided intimacy with him. David began to think that maybe she had lost interest because he had gained some weight over the years. Determined to change, he fully committed to fitness while Emma was away. Strict dieting, intense workouts, the whole routine. Within a few months, he had shed a significant amount of weight and was turning heads, especially at his local gym. At the gym, David struck up a friendship with Rachel, a woman around his age who was also dealing with spouse who traveled for work. They bonded over their workout routines and shared personal stories, but their relationship remained casual. No romantic sparks, at least not in the beginning. Eventually, Rachel's husband returned, just as Emma came back home, so Rachel stayed away from the gym for a while. David respected that. They had agreed not to text or call to avoid any trouble with their spouses. After 2 weeks, David went back to the gym, but Rachel was still absent. Another week passed before she finally showed up, looking completely exhausted. Her face was pale, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. Concerned, David asked what had happened. She hesitated, but when he pressed her, she finally confessed. Her husband, while drunk, had admitted to having an affair at the oil field with someone named Emma, a cook out there who had quite the reputation. David froze. He clung to the slim hope that it was some strained coincidence, but deep down, he already knew the truth. Desperate for answers, he pushed Rachel for more details. Where exactly did her husband work? Who was he involved with? Rachel begged him to let it go. She didn't want to relive the pain, but David wouldn't stop asking. With a heavy sigh, she finally told him everything. David's knees nearly gave out. It turned out that Emma was well known for her nighttime activities, and word had spread. He felt humiliated, like a fool who had been the punchline of a joke that everyone else was in on. Thinking back over the last 10 years, he realized Emma had probably been deceiving him all along. But David didn't confront her over the phone. He decided to wait until she came home. Those last few days of her shift felt like an eternity. Fueled by anger, he started smoking and drinking again. He felt like an idiot for all the times he had tried to win her back with flowers and sweet gestures, instead of just coming right out and asking, "Are you cheating?" Finally, Emma returned a week later. She tried her key, but David had changed the locks. She struggled with the door while he stood behind it, shaking his head in disgust. Eventually, he let her in. The moment Emma stepped inside, she started criticizing him. "Why did you take so long? Why did you change the locks?" But David held his tongue, letting her vent as usual. He had noticed that she always unleashed a wave of negativity the moment she walked through the door. This time, though, he snapped, cutting her off with a raised voice. He demanded that she admit to her workplace affairs. Emma didn't even deny it. Calmly, she admitted that she had been sleeping around for quite some time. Then, in a casual, almost amused tone, she added, "At least I'll have fun memories when I'm old." David just stared, stunned. Was this really happening? Meanwhile, Emma walked deeper into the house, unpacking her duffel bag as if it were just another ordinary day. David stood there, blinking, realizing that she had made a fool of him, not just at the oil field, but probably beyond. His rage boiled over. He told her to get out immediately, but Emma ignored him. So David stormed into the bedroom, yanked her clothes from the closet, and started tossing them onto the floor. 10 years of a shared life meant a lot of belongings, but at that moment he didn't care. Emma tried to stop him, but when she saw the look in his eyes, she knew he was serious. Grabbing her purse, she left, thinking he would cool off in a few days. Instead, David filed for divorce on the second day. He sorted all her things into bags and waited. A few nights later, there was a knock at the door. David opened it just enough to shove a suitcase outside. Then he went back for another and another until all of Emma's belongings were lined up in the hallway. Without a word, he held up the divorce papers, gave a small wave, and shut the door. He didn't care how she got the bags to her car. Instead, he poured himself a drink, sank into a chair, and stared at the half-empty shelves in what used to be their warm and cozy family home. He still had the dreaded task of explaining everything to their grown children. After about an hour, curiosity got the better of him. He opened the door to see if Emma and her luggage were still there. Nothing. She and her belongings were gone. Much later, Rachel told him that Emma's former lover, who was now her ex-husband, ironically enough, had come to help. A month passed before David finally broke the news to his kids. He and their mother were getting divorced. They took it surprisingly well. Each of them had already built their own lives. Meanwhile, Rachel and David kept talking. As time passed, they discovered a genuine connection and eventually moved in together. Funny how shared heartbreak can lead two people to real happiness. As for Emma, she moved back in with her elderly parents in a small town, still heading out for those 15-day shifts at the oil field, apparently just as content as ever with her night shift cooking.